What about the court system itself? Because I've heard you mention that you've had different things happen at the court. And once again, it's Collin County.
Yes.
Collin County is not just this wonderful place to go a lot of times, especially if you're in court. Collin County is as corrupt as many of the other ones at times. It's just as bad. I've witnessed some of the injustices there. I could not believe the stuff that you would see, because the idea is you think you can trust the legislature, you could trust the judiciary. You think that attorneys might do the right thing instead of being abusive. You think that in a court you're going to find justice instead of injustice and abuse. But too often that does not happen. And too often in these courts it seems as if the Constitution doesn't even exist. But tell me a little bit about your experience within the court system.
My experience in the court system has been, to me, completely, I mean, I can't say it's all been negative.
Mm-hmm.
There has been some positive times where things were, seem positive, but it seems like the positive that would come would quickly be taken back with something even worse. It was like recently, in my court case, where the judge said, "Hey guys, you know what I would do if I had to rule on this?" And she was talking about me not getting visits with my granddaughter. She said, "I would spread the love. I would find more family members. I would do something so that they would have their visits. I would do this." But then it's quickly taken back with, "Well, get those filings, those briefings in here for me to look at to strike her out of this case." I mean, it's things like that, and then just.
So primarily what you're talking about right now is the more recent issue with your granddaughter.
Yeah, the most recent one.
Okay.
But going backwards, there's plenty that I can say that are very negative.
So have you hired attorneys or have you done it pro se? Which one have you done?
Done both.
Done both?
Tried to be pro se, and I was not allowed to talk in court when I was pro se. I was not even allowed to even say after I said my name, that was it.
Okay, so then did you start pro se or did you start with an attorney?
I started pro se.
Okay.
I filed my own motion to intervene, filed it at the courthouse, and started it myself.
So did you feel as if being pro se you actually lacked due process and the ability to speak on your own behalf?
Yes.
Or speak on behalf of the case?
Yes, and even with an attorney, I'm still having that same issue.
Yeah. So you kind of felt like you were being discriminated against by the judge because of your pro se.
I feel, yes, that, and then I just feel like there's a lot of bias in my courtroom.
Yeah, there's a couple of things here. I've heard this testimony from many, many people and I've watched it happen, where judges do not like pro se people. And maybe because pro se people don't know the priestcraft, or otherwise known as the law. I mean, basically when you look at these lawyers, what they do, they have their own special terminology, they have their special ceremonies almost, they've got their special club that they're all a part of, and it's kind of like an insider's game almost. It's almost like it's a priestcraft to itself, and here you are as an outsider, and how dare you come into our territory? And I've heard this many times and I've seen it, where judges get very upset with pro se people. Have you experienced that, or has it been more subtle than that?
I've experienced that in the past a lot, but this particular moment when I was pro se, I only got to be pro se for one day. And that didn't, well, I say not even one day, an hour where I didn't even get to even do anything for myself. Like, I was not being acknowledged that I had filed to be an intervener. When I asked the judge, "Can I please say something, like talk?" she said no. She said, "You and your witnesses that you brought can all sit back and watch, but you guys cannot be part of it."
Wow.
But when we first started, she asked me who my witnesses were. She asked me who I was, who they were. She even got to one of my witnesses, and she knew my witness.
Yeah, so tell me about that, because my understanding is that the judge said that she didn't know any of the witnesses, but then it turned out that she actually did know some of the witnesses, so the judge basically kind of told an untruth.
She did. She said, "I just want this to go on record. I want everybody in here to know that I did know this person's father. He was a great man of integrity, great man to work with. However, I have not had any personal social interactions with this said person witness." I'm not going to say their name. So she said, "I just want everybody to know that there's no conflict here." When in fact, come to find out, fast forward all this time, she had major interactions with my witness. That my witness has been in our home. They've had social gatherings before. And she even attended her wedding.
Wow. And my understanding is the witness is willing to come forward and testify to that.
Yes.
Okay. So the judge, basically the judge bore false testimony.
Yes, and then since that hearing happened, we've still had court for over a year and a half since then.
Okay.
And I have been told that I cannot have my witnesses. Well, no, I have been told I can have these witnesses in my future hearing, but I can't bring my witness knowing that it's a conflict right there with the judge, but the judge isn't going to say that it's a conflict.
Got it.
I'm trying to be real here. Like, I'm trying to do everything by truth and integrity.
Right.
And I'm not getting that from this judge or this court.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes truth and integrity and what you think should be considered ethical versus unethical behavior is lacking in the courts. From what I've seen, I'm not saying in every situation, but I have seen a number of times where it has been very much lacking.
And in this same courtroom, like I've dealt with personally, I've just seen, my judge laugh with other parties in the case and talk about how they do stuff outside the courtroom and how they've been on these great adventures together.
See, yeah, that's very interesting. So you're saying that the attorneys and the judges have a strong personal relationship.
Oh.
That maybe the judge might say, she's a friend of mine, so I'm going to rule in her favor.
That's kind of how it feels, because it seems like the one person that she's really good friends with, like she went to high school with someone, they're not on my case, but she did go to high school with this person. Their spouse's law partner is the ad litem on the case. And they all are connected like this.
Yeah.
And then one of the attorneys in the courtroom is married, the one I have a conflict of interest with. I filed on that too. She's married to the bailiff in the courtroom.
Yeah.
But there's no conflict.
Yeah. Well, I've heard, I was listening to somebody today talk about, in fact, they just came from a presentation with somebody and who's an attorney, by the way. And she was mentioning how certain things are almost incestuous as far as, but it kind of sounds that way to some degree when the courts that you're talking about here. So you've had to hire an attorney and that's been cheap, right?
No. It's taken my life savings for my life savings anyway.
Well, okay, so it's taken your life savings, but they fought it through all the way to the end. Is that correct?
Oh, we're at the end, and we're at the end, all right.
Yeah, the end of everything?
Getting ready to be. In December, we're supposed to have final trial.
But is your attorney still with you, or did she basically bail?
She's with me, but I can't pay her now since what she wants me to pay, and so I don't really know what's going to happen because she's kind of like, I haven't heard from her now.
Yeah. So in other words, once and how much? Can I ask how much you've paid her?
I think I've paid somewhere in the sum of $30,000, and now they want another $8,800, and then the fees could go up anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 to $15,000 more before it's over, and that's if they make a decision not to change the trial again. Because they've moved the trial date 3 or 4 times in the case.
Yeah, and each time that they move the trial date, of course, it looks like they're doing something, but really what they're doing is they're scalping more money from you.
Yeah, they keep prolonging this case too. And I've paid things that I thought were filed, but apparently things weren't filed.
Can I ask how much this attorney charges per hour?
I think it's like $350.
So she's on the cheap end.
Yeah, that's cheap end. For most cases are like $500, $550 an hour.
Right, she's on the cheap end, but if she's not doing the work, it still doesn't make much of a difference.
Yeah, I've asked my attorney to speak up in court for me so many times, and I just don't know what's happening. Like, I just see, like, when we go to court, we don't talk. But it seems like CPS and the ad litems are the only ones that talk.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's my lawyer. I'm saying that it just seems like the judge doesn't want us to talk.
Do you feel that the courtroom is rigged, in a sense?
Yes, I do. I believe that with all my heart.
So no matter how much money you're spending, you're not going to get a different outcome, pretty much.
No, you're not.
It's a wealth transfer to the attorneys, and the judge seems to be in on the game. Is that what I hear you saying?
I believe that, and I can give you one good example why I believe that.
Okay.
Just like when I was looking for an attorney to hire for this case, I called one attorney here in Collin County. He's a real famous attorney, but I'm not going to say his name.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, if you give me $20,000 right now, I'll go get your grandkid. We'll be done in a week. And I said, what do you mean? He was like, well, I can get things done. I'm friends with the judge. I can do it.
I'm friends with the judge. I can do it.
Yep. And I didn't give him $20,000. Didn't have it. Or I'd have my grandchild, but then that would be wrong too.
Yeah, yeah, and the and you know, it's very interesting because I've talked with attorneys and I've heard them say, you know, I'm friends with the judge.
Yeah.
We can do it. I've worked with this judge. This judge likes me, and so you go to a court, and it's not a court of justice. It's a court of friendly relations, and sometimes those
It's who
relations.
you know.
Yeah, it's who you know, and sometimes at the other hand, you have judges. An attorney who appears before a judge and the judge does not like the attorney, and that attorney will never win.
That is true. I've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually seen that in the past.
Mm-hmm.
In the same courtroom. So, and for me, I have not had a lot of experiences with judges.
Right.
I've had an experience all those years with the same judge.
Mm-hmm.